Amani Luta woke up to the sound of loud banging, the kind that shakes the whole wooden door. She blinked, still half asleep, and heard her mother's voice echo through the hallway. Amani, open this door right now. We need $40,000. Today. Her heart jumped. 40,000. At 7 in the morning. Amani slowly sat up, her hair messy, her mind already tired. She opened the door to find Mama Rahima standing there with fire in her eyes, hands on her hips, acting as if Amani owed her the world. Where is the money? Her mother demanded, pushing her way inside. Your brother messed up, and if you don't help us, this family will fall apart. Do you want that on your conscience? Amani took a deep breath. She had heard this tone before, that guilt-filled dramatic voice meant to corner her. But today something felt different. Maybe she was too tired. Maybe she had finally reached her limit. Mama, she said softly, I don't have that kind of money. And even if I did, can't just give it like that. I need to know what's really going on. Her mother's face tightened. You don't trust your own family. After everything I've done for you. Amani swallowed hard. Those words always hurt. She wished just once her mother would speak to her with kindness instead of pressure. But she stayed calm. All I'm asking for is the truth, she whispered. 40,000 is not pocket money. Tell me why you need it. Mama Rahima scoffed, waving her hand like Amani was being dramatic. You don't need explanations. You just need to help. You're the only useful one in this house. Those words went straight to Amani's chest like a knife. Useful. Not loved. Not valued. Just useful. As her mother stormed out of the room, still muttering under her breath, Amani stood there in the quiet hallway, feeling something inside her shift, a small, painful snap. For the first time in her life, she wondered if her mother didn't see her as a daughter at all, but simply as a wallet with a heartbeat. The cafe in Kavura town was packed that afternoon. The smell of fresh mandazzi and roasted coffee beans filled the air, and people chatted loudly over small wooden tables. Amani had come hoping to breathe for a moment, maybe clear her head after the argument in the morning. She ordered a simple cup of tea and sat near the window, trying to calm her thoughts. But she didn't get even 5 minutes of peace. The door slammed open so hard that everyone turned. Mama Rahima marched in like she owned the place, her eyes sharp, her mouth already forming angry words. Amani's stomach dropped. She knew that walk. She knew what was coming. Amani Luta, her mother shouted across the cafe. Conversation stopped instantly. Spoons froze midair. People looked between them like they were watching a drama unfold. Amani stood up slowly. Mama, please, let's talk outside. But Mama Rahima wasn't here to talk. She was here to explode. Don't mama me, she yelled, her voice shaking the tables. You think you can disrespect me? You think you can walk away from your responsibilities? I raised you, fed you, and now you refuse to help your own family. A few people started whispering, glancing at Amani with sympathy. Amani felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. She kept her voice soft. Mama, told you. I don't have 40,000. You're lying, her mother screamed, pointing a shaking finger at her. Ungrateful girl. You think you're better than us because you work in an office. Because you have a little money saved. You dare question me. Me. Amani could feel her throat tightening. She knew her mother was trying to shame her into giving in. This wasn't new, but this level of public attack was. She tried again. Mama, please. People are watching. Oh, let them watch. Mama Rahima shouted. Let them see how ungrateful my own daughter is. Let them see the truth. And then, before Amani could move, her mother grabbed the steaming hot coffee she had just bought from the counter. Everything happened too fast. Amani gasped. Mama, don't. But the cup was already in the air. The scalding coffee splashed across Amani's cheek and neck. She felt the burning hit her skin like a slap made of fire. Her breath caught, her eyes watered instantly, and she stumbled back, gripping the edge of a chair. The entire cafe went silent. Someone gasped loudly. Another shouted, What is wrong with you? A worker rushed forward with tissues and cold water, but Amani couldn't move. She stood frozen, her brain struggling to process what had just happened. Her mother, her own mother, had thrown hot coffee at her. Not in anger by accident, not by mistake, on purpose. For being ungrateful. Mama Rahima lifted her chin proudly, like she had done something righteous. Maybe now you'll learn respect, she said, her voice cold. Maybe now you'll understand who you're dealing with. And with that, she turned and walked out of the cafe, not once looking back. Amani stood there, shaking, coffee dripping from her face, surrounded by strangers who cared more about her pain than her own family ever did. The burn stung sharply, but the deeper wound was her mother's pride in hurting her. Right there, in the middle of Kavura town, Amani realized she was no longer her mother's daughter. She was just her mother's target. Amani stepped out of the cafe slowly, her face still stinging from the burn, her cheeks wet with tears she didn't even remember starting to cry. The afternoon sun felt harsh on her skin, making the pain sharper. She wrapped her scarf around her cheek, not to hide it, but just to protect herself from the wind. People inside had offered to call someone to help her, to walk her home, but Amani had shaken her head. She just wanted to be alone. The road back to Nandaku Valley felt longer than usual. Every step echoed with the same thought. My mother did that to me, my own mother. Her vision kept blurring, not just because of the tears, but because her mind felt trapped in a fog of disbelief. She replayed the scene again and again, the shouting, the accusations, the cup lifting, the burning pain. And the worst part wasn't the coffee. It was the look on Mama Rahima's face. Not regret, not shock, pride, satisfaction, like she had taught Amani a lesson. Amani wiped her face, wincing at the pain. A part of her wanted to scream, another part wanted to collapse right on the side of the road. Instead, she kept walking quietly, her footsteps the only sound in the still air. Why am I never enough? She wondered. Why do I always have to prove my love by giving money? Why isn't just being their daughter enough? But deep down she knew the answer. Her mother had never seen her as a daughter. She had seen her as a solution, tool, a walking wallet with emotions no one cared about. Amani remembered every moment she had helped them, paying bills, covering Tawan's debts, buying groceries, fixing things around the house. Every time she gave, they wanted more. Every time she supported them, they acted like she owed them. And today, when she finally said no, she was punished for it. Her heart tightened painfully as she whispered to herself, if I had said yes, would she have still hurt me? Or is this who she has always been? She reached the small dirt path leading toward home, but she stopped. For the first time ever, the house didn't feel comforting, felt heavy, dark. A trap she had been living in without realizing it. Amani looked at the sky, breathing shakily. A quiet strength rose inside her like a small flame, weak at first but growing with each heartbeat. I'm done, she whispered. Done being used. Done being blamed. Done carrying everybody's mistakes on her shoulders. She didn't know what her next step would be, but she knew one thing with painful clarity. She was not going to live her life as her mother's personal ATM anymore. As she walked the rest of the way, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like the first real moment of freedom she'd had in years. Amani spent the rest of the day hiding in her room, pressing a cool cloth against her burning cheek. The pain was still sharp, but the pain in her heart was heavier. She needed something to distract herself, anything to stop the memories from repeating in her head. So she started cleaning her old desk, a drawer she hadn't touched in months. It was full of old notebooks, receipts, dried-up pens, and little memories she had forgotten. A photo of her and her father at the river, a birthday card he wrote in his messy handwriting. She held the card for a long moment, tears filling her eyes again. He had always been gentle, always patient, nothing like the shouting and demand she lived with now. As she pulled out another pile of papers, something strange caught her eye, a brown envelope pushed all the way to the back of the drawer. It looked old, dusty, and carefully hidden. Her heart thumped. She pulled it out slowly. Her father's handwriting was on the front. For Amani. Open when needed. Her breath caught. She sat down on the edge of her bed, hands shaking as she tore it open. Inside were several documents. Crisp, official, legal. Her eyes scanned them quickly. And then she froze. Her father's will. Damp. Clear. He had left everything to her. Not Mama Rahima. Not to one. Or the family land in Nandaku Valley. The shares in the cooperative. The trust fund he had built quietly for years. Even the small rental property she was told, burned down long ago. All of it was in her name. Amani covered her mouth with her hand, shock rushing through her. This can't be real, she whispered. But every page confirmed it. Her father had trusted her. He had believed in her. He had chosen her. So why had her mother told her they had nothing? Why had she insisted everything belonged to her? Why had she made Amani feel guilty, useless, indebted, broke? The truth hit her like a punch. Her mother had been lying to her for years. Not once or twice, but every single day since her father's funeral. Amani felt a storm rising inside her. Confusion. Anger so sharp it made her hands tremble. She remembered how her mother always said, "Your father left us with nothing. You should be grateful I kept this family together." How she used that lie to control Amani, to make her work, to make her pay, to make her feel small. But the real truth, her mother had been stealing from her, using her inheritance, hiding her rights, pretending to be the victim while holding a fortune that didn't belong to her. Amani pressed the documents to her chest, her eyes burning again, but not from coffee this time. "My father trusted me," she whispered. And they tried to erase that. She wasn't just done being used. She was done being lied to. For the first time in years, she felt something powerful rising inside her. Not fear, not doubt, but fire. Quiet, steady, and ready to burn through every lie her mother ever told. Amani didn't sleep that night. The documents from her father's envelope lay spread across her bed like puzzle pieces waiting to be put together. Every page she read made her chest feel tighter. If her father left everything to her, then where had all the money gone? Why was the family always struggling? Why had she been forced to pay bills that weren't hers? Amani needed answers. So she powered on her old laptop, logged into her father's account using the password he once told her as a joke. "Amani is my light." Her eyes stung when she typed it. She wasn't anyone's light now. Not in this house. But she kept going. When the page loaded, her heart almost stopped. The account wasn't empty, the way her mother always claimed. It used to be full, extremely full. Amani scrolled through the transactions, her hands shaking. Large withdrawals. Huge transfers. Money moving out month after month. She clicked on the details, and her stomach dropped. Most of the transfers went to an account under her mother's name. The rest went to Tawan. At first she thought maybe they were paying bills or handling family responsibilities. But the descriptions told a different story. Payments to gambling sites. Cash withdrawals from betting centers. Transfers to shady investment groups she had never heard of. Money going into Tawan's failed car business. The one he swore just needed more time. Amani leaned back in her chair, feeling like the room was spinning. All this time they weren't struggling. They weren't desperate. They were reckless. Irresponsible. Destroying her father's savings one bad decision at a time. And when they ran out, they turned to her. Demanding. Yelling. Guilt-tripping. Acting like she owed them everything. Now she understood why they were so desperate for $40,000. It wasn't to save the family. It was to save themselves from the consequences of their own choices. Amani clicked through more logs, tears blurring her vision. The amounts were huge. Tens of thousands gone in weeks. Money disappearing like water poured into sand. And yet, every time she paid for groceries or electricity, her mother said, "You should help more. We have nothing." When she bought her own clothes with her own salary, her brother said, "You're selfish." When she tried to save for her future, her mother accused her. "You act like you're better than us." But the truth was right in front of her now. They weren't victims. They weren't struggling. They weren't helpless. They were the reason the family was drowning. Amani closed the laptop slowly, her breathing uneven. She felt pain, but beneath that pain was a growing strength, a new kind of clarity. She had always tried to be loyal, supportive, understanding, but they had never shown her the same. She wiped her tears and whispered into the quiet room. "No more lies. No more using me. I know everything now." And for the first time in her life, she finally felt power in her own voice. Amani woke up the next morning with a different kind of fire inside her. The pain on her cheek was still there, but the pain in her heart had hardened into something sharp and steady. She finally knew the truth, and now she needed to protect herself. This time, she wasn't going to act out of emotion. She wasn't going to scream or cry or beg for answers. She would build a plan so strong that no one could twist it, deny it, or escape it. She started by opening her laptop again. Every bank transaction, every withdrawal, every suspicious transfer. She printed it all. She arranged the pages neatly on the floor, sorting them by date and amount. Then she went back to the brown envelope from her father. Inside, behind the will, she found something else. Small letters, handwritten notes, tiny reminders he kept about meetings, land inspections, shares, trust updates. She gathered them all. Each note proved ownership. Each detail showed her father trusted her, not anyone else. Amani then walked quietly through the house, her steps soft on the wooden floor. She recorded everything. The empty drawers where family documents used to be. The locked cabinet her mother claimed only held old clothes. And in the back of that cabinet, Amani found a small stack of her father's mail, hidden, unopened, and clearly stolen. He took pictures. Every angle. Every envelope. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't scared. She was focused. Later that afternoon, she carefully placed her phone on the kitchen counter before her mother and brother returned. Through the thin walls, she recorded their conversation. Whispers about debts, gambling, people threatening to show up at the house, the pressure building. And then the worst part, her mother saying, "Once Amani gives us the 40,000, we're done with her. She can leave if she wants. We don't need her after that." Amani felt that sentence slice through her heart, but she didn't cry. She saved the recording. By the end of the night, she had a full folder packed with proof, every lie, every secret, every piece of the puzzle they tried to bury. She took a deep breath, grabbed her bag, and left the house quietly. She wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. She walked to the edge of Nandaku Valley where the small offices stood. At the very end of the row was a frosted glass door with bold letters. Nyaga and Partners. Financial justice, fraud cases, inheritance protection. Attorney Nyaga was known all over Kisiwa region. People said he could smell a lie from across the room. Some called him a hero. Others called him a nightmare, especially for those who stole money. Amani knocked softly. A tall man opened the door, glasses low on his nose, files in his hand. "Yes. How can I help you?" Amani held up the folder with both hands. Her voice didn't shake. "I need help," she said. "My mother and brother have been stealing my inheritance. And I have proof." Attorney Nyaga looked at her bruised, burned face, and his eyes hardened with purpose. "Come in," he said. "We're going to fix everything they took from you." And for the first time in days, Amani felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope. Amani returned home 2 days later, calm in a way that felt almost scary. She wasn't scared anymore. Not of her mother's voice, not of Tawan's shouting, not of their guilt trips. She had truth on her side, and she carried it in a thick brown folder tucked under her arm. The moment she stepped inside, she saw them waiting for her in the living room like actors ready for a performance. Her mother had tissues in her hand. Tawan was slumped on the couch, head down, pretending to be broken. "Amani," Mama Rahima said immediately, her voice shaking dramatically. "We need to talk, my daughter. As a family. Sit down." Amani didn't sit. She just stood there quietly, letting them begin their show. Tawan sniffed loudly. "Amani, please. We're drowning. I tried everything. The business failed, the debts. I didn't mean for this to happen." Mama Rahima added, "We raised you. We gave you everything. Now we're asking for just one thing. $40,000. If you don't help us, we'll lose everything. Please, Amani, please." She pressed the tissue to her eyes even though there were no tears. Amani watched them both without blinking. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even sad anymore. She just felt done. Finally, she stepped forward and placed the brown folder on the table. The room went silent. Tawan frowned. "What's that?" Amani's voice was calm, almost gentle. "The truth." She opened the folder. Page after page slid across the table. Bank statements, transfers, hidden documents, recordings printed as transcripts. Her father's will, his notes, everything. Her mother's fake crying stopped instantly. Amani pointed at the first page. "Here is the money you two took from Dad's account, for gambling and your failed investments. Here are the bank logs showing every shilling you stole. Here is the land title you said never existed, in my name. Here is Dad's will. He left everything to me. Not you." Rahima's face drained of color. Tawan's hands started shaking. Amani continued, her voice steady, almost cold. "And here is a recording, where you both talked about using me for the $40,000 and throwing me away afterward." Mama Rahima's lips parted. No sound came out. Tawan stood up suddenly. You recorded us. How dare you?" Amani looked him in the eyes. "How dare you? Everything Dad worked for, you destroyed. Everything he left for me, you stole. You lied to me for years. Used me. Hurt me." Her mother finally whispered, "Amani, we can explain." Amani shook her head slowly. "No. You explained enough when you threw coffee on my face in public. That told me exactly who you are." Rahima collapsed back into her chair, shaking. Tawan's eyes darted around the room, searching for a way out, but there wasn't one. Amani picked up the folder and closed it calmly. "I'm done being your wallet. And I'm done being afraid." The room felt heavy, suffocating. Amani looked at them one last time and said quietly, "Everything you hid is coming out today. Neither of them said a single word. For the first time in her life, Amani saw something she had never seen on their faces before. Fear. Real fear. And she finally felt free. The house was silent after the showdown, the kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air is waiting for something big to happen. Amani stood in the doorway with the folder pressed against her chest. Her mother and Tawan sat frozen on the couch, pale and sweating, whispering to each other in panic. They thought the worst part was over. But it was just beginning. A knock echoed through the house. Firm, sharp, official. Tawan jumped. Mama Rahima's eyes widened. "Amani, who is that?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Amani didn't answer. She walked to the door and opened it calmly. Attorney Nyaga stepped inside, tall and confident, carrying a briefcase. Behind him were two uniformed officers and a woman from the land registry office. They didn't look angry, they looked prepared. "Good evening," Nyaga said politely, though his eyes were already scanning the room like he knew exactly what he'd find. "We're here to resolve a few legal matters." Tawan stumbled to his feet. What legal matters? "This is our home." "No," Nyaga replied. "This is Amani's home. According to the original ownership papers your mother hid." Rahima gasped, clutching the armrest. The female officer opened her folder. "We are here to serve official notices regarding fraudulent withdrawals and property misrepresentation." Amani watched quietly as Nyaga placed several documents on the table, the same ones she had given him, but now stamped, signed, and backed by the law. "Your accounts," Nyaga said, looking directly at Rahima and Tawan, "have been temporarily frozen pending investigation." Mama Rahima's hand flew to her chest. "Frozen? You can't do that. I'm the mother." Nyaga didn't even blink. "And yet the funds you used came from an inheritance that does not legally belong to you. You've been withdrawing money from your late husband's account for years. Without rights. Without permission." The officer stepped forward, not threatening, just firm. Tawan's voice cracked. "We were going to pay it back. We just needed time." Nyaga raised an eyebrow. "Gambling debts don't count as family emergencies." Rahima broke down, crying for real this time. Not the dramatic tears she used to manipulate Amani, but the terrified kind that come when a lie finally explodes. Amani didn't move. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just watched, calm and still, as everything finally came to light. Then the land registry officer opened her blue folder and turned to Amani with a warm, respectful smile. "Miss Amani Luta, congratulations. As of tonight, all land and property originally belonging to your father has been officially transferred into your name, exactly as he intended. Your mother hid the documents, but the legal records were never lost." Amani felt her throat tighten. She hadn't expected that sentence to hit so hard. Her land, her father's land, the land she was told never existed, the land she had dreamed of visiting one day. Now it was hers legally, fully, completely. Tawan sat down, defeated. Rahima stared at the floor, shaking her head as if she couldn't believe the lies had finally caught up to her. Nyaga looked at Amani gently. "Your father trusted you. Today the law honors that trust." Amani nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. But these tears felt different. Softer, lighter, free. The officers began filling out paperwork. Rahima whispered Amani's name, broken, pleading. But Amani didn't look back. For the first time in her life, she wasn't trapped. She wasn't powerless. She wasn't the girl they used. She was the rightful owner of everything they tried to steal. And tonight, she finally got it all back. Amani packed her last suitcase slowly, almost in disbelief. For the first time in her life, no one was shouting at her. No one was calling her ungrateful, and no one was trying to guilt-trip her into staying. The small house in Nandiku Valley felt cold and empty now, not because it lacked people, but because she had finally stopped carrying their weight. Every corner of that place held memories of pain, the times she cried quietly after being insulted, the night she worked extra shifts while her family slept, the morning she woke up to more demands. She touched the doorway one last time, exhaled deeply and whispered, "Never again." Then she walked out and didn't look back. Her taxi ride to Lamora City felt like breathing for the first time. Tall buildings rose like promises through the cloudy sky. The streets buzzed with life, people walking, laughing, building dreams. Amani watched everything with wide eyes, feeling something grow inside her that she had not felt in years. Freedom. She checked into a small but bright apartment with big windows and sunshine pouring in. No shouting, no chaos, just silence and a clean space that belonged to her, and only her. With attorney Nyaga's help, Her inheritance finally reached her account. Amani stared at the numbers on her phone and burst into tears. Not because of the money, but because someone had finally fought for her instead of against her. She promised herself she wouldn't waste a single shilling. She invested part of it into a small wellness studio in Lamora City. She wanted a place where tired, broken people could breathe again, the same way she was learning to breathe. She painted the walls soft colors, added plants, warm lights, and calming music. Every day, new people walked in, telling her how peaceful her space felt. Amani would smile quietly and think, peace feels different when you build it yourself. Her days slowly filled with sessions, smiles, and a kind of gentle joy she had never known. She made new friends, real ones who didn't want anything from her. She took evening walks by the river, drank her favorite ginger tea in silence, and slept without fear for the first time in years. Sometimes she would wake up at night, surprised that no one was yelling her name or knocking on her door to ask for money. She would sit by her window, looking at the city lights, and whisper to herself, "This is my life now." And the more she healed, the more she realized something powerful. She didn't just escape Nandika Valley. She escaped the version of herself who thought she had to suffer to be loved. In Lamora City, she wasn't Rahima's daughter, or Tawan's wallet, or her mother's punching bag. She was Amani, strong, calm, and finally free. Months later, Amani's wellness studio had become one of the most peaceful places in Lamora City. People came from everywhere just to sit in the calm, warm air she had created. Her sessions were always full, her smile was always gentle, and her heart felt lighter than it ever had in her old life. She had finally learned what real peace felt like, and she wasn't letting it go for anything. One quiet afternoon, while she was arranging candles for her meditation class, she heard the studio door open. She turned, and her breath caught. Standing there were Rahima and Tawan. Their clothes were worn, their faces tired, their eyes filled with panic and shame. They looked nothing like the people who once shouted at her, insulted her, and poured hot coffee on her face. Now they looked small, plus desperate. Rahima stepped forward first, her voice trembling. "Amani, please. We need help. We made mistakes. We were wrong. Just, please talk to us." Tawan nodded quickly, swallowing hard as if he might burst into tears. "We don't have anyone else. You're the only one who can save us." For a moment, Amani just stood still, letting their words sink in. Months ago, hearing them beg would have broken her heart. It would have made her feel guilty or responsible. But now she only felt calm, a deep, powerful calm that came from choosing herself. She walked toward them slowly, her steps steady, her expression soft but unshakable. She gave a small smile, not cruel, not angry, just honest. "You threw coffee on my face," she said quietly, her voice steady as stone. "But that was the moment I finally woke up." Rahima's lips trembled. Tawan looked down at the floor. They had expected tears, shouting, or maybe forgiveness, but not peace. Not strength, not a woman who no longer needed them. Amani opened the door gently and gestured outside. "I truly wish you healing," she said. "But my life is no longer a place you can enter." They had no choice but to leave. Hours later, someone who overheard the moment posted it online. Within days, Amani's story spread across social media. Millions of views, endless comments, people cheering for her strength. Her quote became a viral mantra for anyone who had ever survived cruelty. "You threw coffee on my face. But that was the moment I finally woke up." And in Lamora City, under soft lights and the quiet hum of her studio, Amani finally understood. Her rebirth was the best revenge.